Sarah peered out the window, the gentle chimes on her porch dancing in the breeze. A sense of peace washed over her as she listened to their soothing melody. But that tranquility vanished the moment she saw her neighbor, Karen, storming across the lawn, her face twisted with fury. Sarah's heart raced as Karen approached her front door and began pounding relentlessly. "Open up. I know you can hear me." Karen's shrill voice carried through the thin walls, making Sarah wince. Reluctantly, Sarah opened the door, bracing herself for the onslaught. "What's the problem, Karen?" "The problem?" Karen scoffed. "Your ridiculous wind chimes are driving me insane. I can't even have a conversation in my own home because of that constant noise." Sarah raised a hand, trying to reason with her. "Karen, they're not that loud. I've had them for years, and no one else has ever complained." "Well, I'm complaining now." Karen's eyes narrowed, and she jammed a finger in Sarah's face. "You're going to take them down, or I'll make sure the Homeowners Association fines you until you do." Sarah felt her temper flare. "The HOA has no right to dictate what I can have on my own property. These chimes mean a lot to me, and I'm not taking them down just because you don't like the sound." Karen's nostrils flared, and she stepped closer, invading Sarah's personal space. "Then I'll make sure your precious chimes disappear. Don't test me, Sarah. You have no idea what I'm capable of." With that, Karen turned on her heel and stormed off, leaving Sarah shaken and uncertain. She closed the door, her hands trembling, and leaned against it, her mind racing. What was she going to do? Sarah's hands shook as she poured a cup of coffee, the events of the morning weighing heavily on her mind. Karen's threat had left her feeling deeply unsettled, and she couldn't shake the sense of dread that had settled in the pit of her stomach. Sinking into her favorite chair, Sarah stared out the window, watching the wind chimes sway gently. She loved the calming melody they produced, a reminder of the peaceful life she had built here. But now, that tranquility felt fragile, threatened by her neighbor's relentless demands. She considered taking the chimes down, just to avoid further confrontation. But the very thought made her stomach turn. These chimes were more than just a decoration. They were a cherished memento from her late grandmother, a symbol of the comfort and security she had once felt in her own home. Sighing, Sarah took a sip of her coffee, her mind whirring with possible solutions. She could try reasoning with Karen again, appeal to her sense of community and understanding. Or maybe she could see if the HOA would side with her, citing the regulations that allowed for personal decorations. As she mulled over her options, Sarah's phone suddenly buzzed with an incoming call. Her heart sank when she saw Karen's name on the caller ID. Steeling herself, she answered, bracing for another tirade. "Hello, Karen," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Sarah, I'm calling to let you know that I filed a formal complaint with the HOA about your wind chimes," Karen declared, her tone dripping with self-satisfaction. "They have agreed to send an inspector to assess the situation and determine if they violate the community guidelines." Sarah felt her stomach drop. This was exactly what she had feared. "Karen, please, can't we talk about this? I'm sure we can find a reasonable solution." "The time for talking is over," Karen snapped. "Either you take those chimes down, or the HOA will force you to. I won't have my peace and quiet disrupted any longer." With that, Karen hung up, leaving Sarah in a state of panic. She stared at the phone, her mind racing. She had to act quickly, before the HOA got involved and made things even worse. But what could she do? Sarah paced back and forth in her living room, her mind whirling with options. She couldn't let Karen win, not when the wind chimes meant so much to her. But she also couldn't risk the HOA getting involved and potentially fining her or, even worse, forcing her to remove them. Suddenly, an idea struck her. Grabbing her phone, she scrolled through her contacts and found the number she was looking for, her friend, Emily, who worked at the local animal shelter. "Emily, I need your help," Sarah said, the urgency evident in her voice. "What's going on, Sarah?" Emily asked, her tone concerned. Sarah quickly explained the situation with Karen and the wind chimes, her voice shaking with emotion. I can't let her win, Emily. Those chimes are irreplaceable to me. Do you think you could, do something about her constant barking? There was a brief pause on the other end of the line, and Sarah held her breath, hoping Emily would understand. Sarah, are you asking me to report Karen's dog for noise complaints? Emily's voice was cautious, but Sarah could hear the underlying amusement. Yes, that's exactly what I'm asking, Sarah replied, her desperation clear. If I can get the authorities involved, maybe you'll make Karen think twice about coming after my chimes. Emily let out a low chuckle. Well, I can't say I condone the idea, but I do understand where you're coming from. Let me see what I can do. Sarah felt a wave of relief wash over her. Thank you, Emily. I really appreciate this. Don't mention it, Emily said, a hint of mischief in her voice. I'll get started on it right away. Just be prepared for some payback from Karen, okay? I'll be ready, Sarah assured her, a newfound determination burning in her chest. She wasn't going to let Karen bully her anymore. This was war. Over the next few days, Sarah watched with a mix of anxiety and anticipation as the situation with Karen escalated. She knew it was only a matter of time before her friend's plan took effect, and she couldn't help but feel a twinge of guilt for stooping to such underhanded tactics. But as the persistent barking from Karen's massive Rottweiler echoed through the neighborhood, Sarah's guilt slowly gave way to a sense of vindication. Neighbors she had never even spoken to began to grumble and complain, their frustration with the constant noise bubbling over. Then, one morning, Sarah received a call from a familiar number, the local animal control office. Her heart raced as she answered, bracing herself for the confrontation. Mrs. Johnson, this is Officer Ramirez from Animal Control, the voice on the other end said. We've received multiple complaints about excessive noise from a dog at your address. I'm afraid we'll need to send an inspector to investigate further. Sarah took a deep breath, trying to sound as concerned as possible. Oh my, I had no idea. My neighbor's dog has been barking quite a bit lately, but I didn't realize it had become such a problem. Of course, I'll cooperate fully with your investigation. Excellent. Thank you for your understanding, Officer Ramirez replied. We'll be in touch to schedule a time to come by. As Sarah hung up the phone, a small smile crept across her face. The plan was working, and she couldn't help but feel a sense of triumph. Karen was about to get a taste of her own medicine. Over the next few days, the calls from animal control continued, and Sarah could practically hear the frustration in Karen's voice every time she answered the door. The inspectors came and went, each time issuing a warning or a citation for the incessant barking. Sarah watched the entire ordeal unfold with a sense of vindication, knowing that Karen was finally facing the consequences of her own obnoxious behavior. The wind chimes remained untouched, their soothing melody a constant reminder of Sarah's refusal to back down. As the days passed, Sarah continued to receive updates from animal control regarding the ongoing issue with Karen's dog. The citations and warnings had been piling up, and it was clear that Karen was growing increasingly exasperated. One afternoon, as Sarah was tending to her garden, she heard the familiar sound of Karen's heavy footsteps approaching. Bracing herself, she turned to face her neighbor, fully expecting another confrontation. What the hell is going on, Sarah? Karen demanded, her face flushed with anger. Animal control has been harassing me nonstop about my dog. Do you have anything to do with this? Sarah feigned innocence, her expression calm and collected. I'm not sure what you mean, Karen. I haven't done anything. Don't give me that innocent act, Karen spat. I know you're behind this. This is all because of those stupid wind chimes, isn't it? I'm telling you the truth, Karen, Sarah said, her voice steady. I have no idea why animal control has been contacting you. Perhaps your dog has been causing a disturbance in the neighborhood. Karen's eyes narrowed, and she took a step closer, her finger pointed accusingly. "You're lying, Sarah. I know you're the one who's been reporting my dog." "Well, let me tell you something. This isn't over. I'm going to make your life a living hell until you get rid of those chimes." With that, Karen stormed off, leaving Sarah feeling both relieved and uneasy. She knew that Karen's threats were not to be taken lightly, and she couldn't help but worry about what her neighbor might do next. As the sun began to set, Sarah glanced up at the wind chimes, their gentle melody soothing her nerves. She had come this far, and she wasn't about to let Karen win. Whatever happened next, she was determined to stand her ground. Over the next few weeks, Sarah found herself on high alert, constantly watching for any signs of retaliation from Karen. The constant barrage of animal control visits and citations had clearly taken a toll on her neighbor, and Sarah knew that Karen was growing increasingly desperate. One evening, as Sarah was settling in for the night, she heard a loud crash coming from her front porch. Rushing to the window, she gasped in horror as she watched Karen, wielding a baseball bat, smashing her beloved wind chimes to pieces. Sarah's heart raced as she rushed outside, confronting her neighbor mid-vandalism. "Karen, what the hell do you think you're doing?" she shouted, her voice trembling with a mixture of anger and disbelief. Karen whirled around, the bat still clutched tightly in her hand. "I warned you, Sarah," she spat. "I told you I'd make you regret this, and now your precious chimes are gone. You can't just destroy my property like this." Sarah cried, tears welling in her eyes as she surveyed the shattered remains of the chimes. "I can, and I just did," Karen sneered. "And if you try to replace them, I'll make sure they end up the same way." With that, she tossed the bat to the ground and stormed off, leaving Sarah standing there, stunned and heartbroken. Slowly, Sarah bent down, carefully picking up the fragments of the chimes. As she cradled the broken pieces in her hands, the realization of what had just happened hit her like a freight train. Karen had crossed a line, and Sarah knew she couldn't let this stand. Determined to seek justice, Sarah rushed inside and dialed 911, her voice shaky as she reported the incident. The police arrived within minutes, and Sarah recounted the entire story, her anger and grief fueling her words. As the officers took statements and began searching for Karen, Sarah felt a sense of relief wash over her. This time, it was Karen who had made a grave mistake, and Sarah was determined to make her pay for it. The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity as the police investigation into Karen's vandalism unfolded. Sarah cooperated fully, providing detailed accounts of the incident and the ongoing conflict between the two neighbors. To Sarah's surprise, the police took the matter seriously, recognizing the pattern of harassment and the escalating nature of Karen's behavior. They quickly issued a warrant for her arrest, and within 24 hours, Karen was taken into custody. As news of the arrest spread through the neighborhood, Sarah began to receive an outpouring of support from her fellow residents. Many of them had also been on the receiving end of Karen's entitled and aggressive behavior, and they were thrilled to see her finally face the consequences of her actions. One by one, neighbors came forward to file their own complaints against Karen, from noise violations to harassment, until the list of charges against her had grown exponentially. The once confident Karen now found herself in a precarious legal situation, facing the very real possibility of jail time. Sarah, for her part, felt a sense of relief and vindication. While the loss of her beloved wind chimes still stung, she took comfort in the knowledge that Karen had finally been held accountable. The community she had worked so hard to build was now rallying behind her, and she knew that she had made the right decision in standing up to her neighbor's bullying. As the case wound its way through the legal system, Sarah began to receive regular updates from the police and the district attorney's office. Karen's initial charges had been upgraded to include destruction of property and harassment, and the prosecutors were pushing for a harsh sentence. Sarah couldn't help but feel a twinge of sympathy for her neighbor, even after all she had done. She knew that Karen's behavior was likely rooted in deeper issues, and she hoped that the legal consequences would serve as a wake-up call, prompting her to seek the help she clearly needed. As the final court hearing approached, Sarah found herself torn between a desire for justice and a reluctance to see Karen face severe punishment. The months of escalating tension and conflict had taken a toll on her, and she couldn't help but wonder if there might have been a better way to resolve the situation. When the day of the hearing arrived, Sarah steeled herself, prepared to face her neighbor one last time. As Karen stood before the judge, her once confident demeanor shattered, Sarah couldn't help but feel a twinge of sympathy. The woman she had once seen as an unrelenting bully now appeared small and vulnerable, the weight of her actions clearly weighing heavily upon her. The judge listened intently as the prosecutor outlined the charges, detailing the pattern of harassment and the destruction of Sarah's property. Karen's attorney attempted to plead for leniency, citing her client's mental health struggles and the ongoing feud between the two neighbors. In the end, the judge was unmoved, issuing a sentence that included both jail time and a restraining order. Karen's eyes widened in shock as the verdict was read, and Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of relief wash over her. As Karen was led away, Sarah turned to leave the courtroom, her mind swirling with a mix of emotions. While she was glad to finally have some closure and a measure of justice, she couldn't shake the lingering feeling that this outcome was not entirely satisfactory. Later that evening, as Sarah sat on her porch, gazing up at the empty space where the wind chimes once hung, she made a decision. She would use the money from the lawsuit to commission a new set of chimes, one that would serve as a symbol of both her resilience and her desire for healing. In the days that followed, Sarah began to reach out to her neighbors, suggesting that they come together to create a community garden or host a block party. She knew that the path to true reconciliation would not be easy, but she was determined to build a neighborhood where people could coexist with mutual respect and understanding. As the summer breeze carried the first few notes of the new wind chimes, Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of hope for the future. While the past may have been fraught with conflict, she was ready to embrace a new chapter, one where the sound of chimes would be a symbol of unity, not division.